Welcome to Business Notes. I'm your host, Diane Bogino. My guest today is Falk Kyser. Falk is a business coach and patient advocate. We'll be talking about living well with chronic diseases and chronic pain. Falk is a certified empowerment coach, facilitator, and master trainer. For the past 14 years, he has improved the lives of over 500 individuals living with debilitating chronic health and pain conditions. Falk has done this by empowering patients and their caretakers with tools and techniques that allow them to live a normal life in a wonderful, evidence-based 4 to 12-week paced learning peer-based program entitled Living Well with Chronic Disease and Pain. Through this program, people learn to become their own best self-managers. Now, here's Falk to tell us more about his exciting program. Falk, welcome to Business Notes, and thank you for being with us today.
Well, Diane, it's a privilege to be here, and I thank you for inviting me and doing this.
Well, I am glad to talk to you because you have a very interesting bio picture. So could you tell us what that picture is all about?
Well, it's really interesting because the subject we're talking about, Stanford University in California and McGill University in Montreal, Canada, basically tell us that 50% of everybody in North America has a chronic disease. And 80% of that 50% have more than 3. And I have a wonderful keynote that I bring people into this program called Dancing in the Rain. And for people with chronic illnesses and chronic pain, there's an aphorism: life is always a storm. And for people with chronic pain and diseases, the storm is always there. It's always raining. And what's important to do is to learn how to dance in the rain. And this is what the program does. And it also teaches their caretakers or the people that are close to them learn how to dance in the rain with them. And that is a big emotional pull, because 99.9% of the time, people with these conditions have to deal with them by themselves. They only visit their healthcare professionals at maximum 5-6 times a year. So this is a very important program for people with these conditions to learn to live a normal life.
Was the inspiration for that picture the movie by Gene Kelly, with Gene Kelly in it?
You're absolutely right, Diane. That's where the thought came from. I think it's one of the most iconic images of somebody doing it. And it's something I love to do, is bring in my essence quality of joy to really motivate the people to take a look at becoming more self-empowered. And I think Gene Kelly hits the mark in that movie.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of self-empowerment, can you tell the audience, what does self-management mean exactly?
Self-management has 3 components: to take care of your own health, to carry out normal activities, and to manage the emotional changes. And it's a concept where you build self-efficacy. That's the belief in yourself to be able to change your behavior, to change outcomes. And that takes practice. Like exercise, it takes practice, and it's fabulous to be able to do it in a group, a peer group, where everybody helps everybody else do that. And it really is the ultimate concept of self-management.
Yeah, that having somebody else around to give you accountability, that's a game changer. What makes your program more special? You and I both know there are a lot of programs out there around wellness, but why is yours different, Falk?
I think there's several reasons. And the first one is peer-based. So peer-based means it's not doctors or nurses doing the program. It's people like myself who suffer from chronic illnesses, facilitating people that suffer from it as well. So there's an empathy, there is a communication, there is a sense of experience that's shared, and that's really important. It's also not disease specific, because whether you have MS, whether you have diabetes, whether you have a cancer or a pain condition like fibromyalgia, there are similarities in your anxieties, in your fears, in your frustrations, in learning how to eat healthy. All those things are universal. It's also evidence-based. So we have actuaries and psychological students who ask questions before the program, who ask questions after the program, 6 months after the program, and 2 years after the program. And it really reduces hospital visits. It increases efficiency in diagnosis. In companies, it helps presenteeism. It reduces absenteeism. And this is actually evidence-based, and most importantly, it really works. And I can speak for myself. This program, I go back to the principles. I have to manage my chronic illnesses, and when I get out of whack a little bit, I use the principles to empower myself to get back on track. I love it, and 80% of the people who've gone through this program with me, I've really seen real life life transformations.
What are your tips for someone dealing with chronic disease or chronic pain in terms of helping them cope?
I think you have to see it like the program is like a toolbox. It offers wonderful modules where you learn to make decisions, you learn how to eat healthily, you learn how to do action plans and problem solving, you learn how to exercise, you learn how to work with medication usage, communicating with your healthcare professionals. And it's up to you to choose which tips work for you. And it's a very individual thing. For instance, with my diabetes and my other chronic conditions, I found 3 really important points. One was the action plans and the problem solving. Another was I actually learned to love to meditate. I went to the gym and I stopped using my insulin. I tried some alternative therapy, but I did that with my healthcare professionals. I didn't do it on my own. I worked with them, so it was safe to do that. And I also learned something called biofeedback, which I worked with the Montreal Neurological Institute, which actually got my pancreas working. They don't know why, but they said, treat it like a honeymoon. And that's what this program does. It asks you to be open-minded to try things. And the beautiful thing, it isn't only the facilitator or co-facilitators that do that. Everybody tries it. So it's like mutually encouraging each other to do this because it's paced learning over 6 to 12 weeks.
Well, speaking of that, can you walk our audience through some of the elements of how participants learn to self-manage their chronic conditions through the steps in your program? Exactly what are some of the elements of your program?
I think probably the strongest empowering element are listening to the topics at hand in a 2-hour session, and then using them over the next week or 2, try them out, like eating more nutritiously. So if you're a diabetic, for instance, there are some tips like, seeing when you eat proteins, if you want to keep your weight, you don't make it more than the palm of your hand. If you want to reduce weight, it's no more than 3/4 of your hand. Or if instead of using all these fats, roast garlic, spread it on your bread, or use mustard or other condiments to spread on the bread. Or instead of eating chocolates, eat fruit instead. It's much healthier. So just simple things like that, or learning how to sleep better, like a lot of great suggestions. Like, don't come on this platform an hour before you go to bed. It generally keeps your endorphins and everything going in a big high thing. But it is trying out all those tactics, and sometimes it's crazy. I remember a Superior Court judge who did the same action plan in a 6-week program every week. And she basically, her action plan was not to drive more than 200 kilometers an hour on a Canadian highway, where the speed limit is 100 kilometers an hour. And in the 4th week, I asked her on a break, why this? You're a really bright woman. Why are you doing that? And she said, Falk, this is really an empowering program. I gave up hope. I wanted to lose my job. My illness, I couldn't cope with it. And you and your group here have made me gain faith in my own empowerment. So now, by not doing that, I'm going to continue living a normal life. So it's not always rational reasons. It's sometimes very emotional reasons. And I think that's one of the strong points on the program, is managing to learn how to manage your emotions. And the stories you tell yourself are sometimes stories that aren't good, that make the illness even worse than it has to be.
Yeah, that our minds can really send us in the wrong direction a lot of
Absolutely.
times. You mentioned earlier how your program can reduce absenteeism, and you work with assessments, and I work with assessments, but you also have an assessment around self-management, which I know organizations would definitely be interested in. So could you talk about that just for a minute?
And you can relate to this. I have a whole assessment which deals with reasoning abilities and problem solving abilities and personalities like sense of urgency, competitiveness, if you like dealing with other people, if you're a good decision maker or not. And those personality and those reasoning abilities, if they're very strong, I just did a program where I recorded everything, and 5 out of 25 people didn't come, and they loved the program. I'm realizing some people can do this digitally, but I would need that assessment ahead of time to know they're predisposed to be able to do that. Whereas a lot of people, if you have, for instance, if you have too high a sense of urgency, when you're dealing with chronic illnesses, that can be an obstacle because you want results right away. And this is something that's over time, it's a practice, and you have to keep it going for the rest of your life. You have to self-manage for the rest of your life. I don't want people to count on that there are cures for cancer, MS. Hopefully, one day there will be, but in the meantime, these are things where there aren't cures, and we have to learn that self-empowerment. So those assessments are extremely valuable in probably taking this program, especially into the workplace.
Good to know. Now you're an entrepreneur. You started out in sales, but do you think that having a sales background is essential for every entrepreneur?
Don't think it's essential, but it's a really big plus. I'm a sales trainer, and one of the problems I see with a lot of entrepreneurs is they have this old image of a car salesman. And I want to tell them that's not true. You have to sell yourself in life, and sales is a behavioral science, just like self-management is. And you can learn the competencies of sales if you have somebody explain it to you. You don't have to have a natural inclination to it. And you do need to have it, because being entrepreneurial, you have to be a good goal setter. You do have to be accountable to yourself if you want to be successful. And it really helps if you know processes and activities and have a good time management concept. You have a sales background, to get out there, to act, which a lot of entrepreneurs, they stay in their head and they map out everything. And really, it's important to test these things before you make a total decision on how your business is going to look. So yes, it's a great background, but no, it's not something you have to have. It's something that can be taught and learned.
Good. I'll be right over. What advice would you give someone starting a business today?
Get a coach, get a mentor, get someone you trust, and get someone who's successful already at doing that, who you really trust and can communicate with. I really do think what I feel from a lot of entrepreneurs is they're alone. And it's really important to have a wall to bounce off ideas. And it helps if that's an experienced wall. And just like the chronic illness program, it helps when somebody has an experiential experience of success in this. I also would say, sharpen your saw. That's an old Stephen Covey thing. Keep on learning, be open-minded. Just like the chronic disease problem, be open-minded to new suggestions, new ways of doing. And there's no secret. It really is activity. It really is changing your behaviors and changing your focus and optimizing your efforts and energy to be successful as an entrepreneur. So get help. Don't be alone. I would not be where I am, or I wouldn't have been where I was having started companies if I didn't look outside of myself.
Falk, this you brought some great information, both for individuals and their health, but for organizations as well. And it's a money-saving program really for organizations, and a great motivator for individuals trying to monitor health. And you're right, it is a journey. So I really appreciate you being here today and bringing us this advice.
Thank you for having me, Diane. I really appreciate what you're doing. And a big thank you from everybody you're helping, including myself. And I hope we keep in contact, because I know you and I are doing a lot of the same stuff.
You can count on that. I'll be bugging you.
And thanks for putting to light an issue that isn't vocalized enough, because I don't think people realize how large an audience and how much an impact self-managing and self-efficacy can have on your health. And I think we need alternative programs like that coming along to really help. I know in San Francisco alone, Stanford University, that program has saved billions of dollars in the healthcare sector every year. But what I'd like to do is also bring it as a self-financing program into the public sector, where companies, I think it'll be also not only good for health, it'll be a great retention strategy and loyalty strategy for companies to work on. You know, everybody talks about loyalty. Loyalty, you put somebody who's been disenfranchised in a wheelchair back to work, especially in our environment right now, where virtual means are becoming easier and easier to deal with. I don't think you can get a more loyal person to work for you ever. They're going to be grateful for a long time. And I think companies are missing that chance. And also, people really, health is really, really important. You should be able to navigate the system and take time off without having implications from your company or feeling sorry you're doing that, because your health is going to make you a better employee for them.
Absolutely. And do you prefer people contact you through your website or email?
Well, the best thing right now is there's really three easy. I have a name that's really easy, Falk Kyser. Just Google that, and you'll find me. And I have a wonderful text and cell telephone. Those are the two best ways. The website isn't focused enough on this. It's focused on all my business. So I would like to probably just use this as a program right now on its own. And I think it's the perfect timing for it.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks again, Falk. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Diane. Always a pleasure to see you. And thank you so much. It's really heartfelt that you can do this for a lot of people. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for watching Business Notes. We've been speaking with Falk Kyser, business coach and patient advocate. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, bringing you business ideas you can bank on.